Today we are focusing on Israel, a very important country in West Asia, which is going through some of the transformation. But today we're going to talk about Israel and its relation with Bhutan, and which will unfold in many great potential in the Indian subcontinent. Coming back to India-Israel relationship, we always know we have the greatest of security and defense cooperation. It's not limited to that. It goes to some of the finest collaboration in terms of innovation in agriculture, water resources, and some of the crucial research and development project that happens with Israel. And also our socio-political climate in both countries is perfect match to tackle geopolitical challenges for India also, as well as Israel. So we have today Ambassador Ron Malka to talk about such crucial issues, its relation with Israel, our political relation with Israel, our economic relation with Israel, and our scientific relation with Israel, which is also very important, and our viewers need to know about this. Now, I also give a glimpse of Ambassador Ron Malka. He's a graduated in economics and business administration, an MBA in finance and business administration, and also having a PhD in economics. Besides, he served Israeli military and retired as a colonel rank, a massive academic credential, Ambassador. Ambassador, I begin by asking you, Israel has formally set up a diplomatic relation with Bhutan, also a very key important ally of India in the subcontinent. How will trilateral cooperation among Israel, Bhutan, India will unfold? Could you comment to Ambassador Ron Malka?
Yes, well, good afternoon, Manish, and thank you for inviting me. India and Israel are key strategic partners, so this is something that we are so happy with, and of course we are advancing the relations with India and deepening and extending them to almost every sector of our lives. The relation between Israel and Bhutan have been there for many years. I'd say a warm friendship, but it didn't mature until now to the stage of full diplomatic relations. As much as Bhutan is developing and open itself to the world and adapting new technologies and practices and systems, Israel has a lot of added value to bring to Bhutan. And since Bhutan is very important, precious for India, I think that India really supports this, merge and ties and bonding between Israel and Bhutan, since we can share so much. Bhutan, like Israel, is a small country that is trying to develop, to prosper, to build its economy and adapt advanced technology. And I think that Israel has a lot to do with that and to share and to help. And so as far as agriculture is concerned, water management, development of skills and education, in many things we can collaborate, and I think India and Israel are collaborating in these areas, and to bring to the table Bhutan can be very, I would say, contributing and benefiting for every part.
Ambassador, initiating, of course, you talked about some of the collaboration, say the water resources, that had a similarity with Israel. Some of the project you'd like to talk about, which you think you can initiate in developing projects in Bhutan, if you highlight some of the areas, agriculture, water resources, how you can contribute?
Well, first of all, if we start with agriculture, which is still the backbone of the economy, Israel and India has the most successful mutual agriculture project in the world. We have now 30 functioning centers of excellence of agriculture all over India. And we managed to train and to share practices and knowledge and know-how with hundreds of thousands of Indian farmers every year. So in that sense, we can take the same model and build a center of excellence of agriculture also in Bhutan. And then to come and to share our practices, technologies, experience with the Bhutanese farmers. And as far as water management is concerned, also with India, we advanced a lot the partnership in water. We are going to designate in the coming weeks a water expert from Israel that will be based in Delhi. And from Delhi, he will be able also to support and to share also with the Bhutanese government, not only with the Indian government, our practices, experience, knowledge on water management. And as you well know, Israel is world leader in water management. Israel, a mostly desert country, has now abundance of water due to the implementing of advanced systems, technologies, and practices that we did. So we are willing to share it with our friends, and I think this new stage of relations with Bhutan will enable us to work more and to deepen and extend the relations and the cooperation in those areas.
Ambassador, well elaborated. I see it's a great welcome state for Bhutan to have a technology partner, an innovative country like Israel coming into diplomatic relation. But before I come back to the nuances of the India-Israel bilateral relation, it is very important for you to also talk about some of the broader questions which our viewers would like to understand in context of West Asia, which is embracing Israel with Abraham Accords. It is an historic moment. Could you give a sense of Israeli foreign policy changing or shifting in the complex environment for our viewers at large in India? To you, Ambassador.
Well, first I would start with that Israel, since the establishment of Israel, we are yearning for peace and friendship and collaboration and unity. This is our vision. This is the way that we conduct this is our policy. So whoever wants to become our friend is most welcome. And those that showed in the past that are very serious about it, really saw that Israel is willing to sacrifice and to give a lot just for forging new friendship and new ties. As far as Israel and India are concerned, of course, we did a remarkable path since we started, and now, as I said, we are key strategic partners. The new agreements, the peace agreements that we sign now with the Gulf countries are very good news also for the relations between Israel and India, and specifically for India, because think, for example, of UAE. Israel and the UAE are the leading countries in innovation and technology in West Asia. Both of them are key strategic partners of India. So if two key strategic partners of India are signing peace agreement, and since given that India is also focusing on innovation and technology, think how much added value we can bring to the table. So think of Israel and UAE and India collaborating in science and technology, innovation. Each one brings its comparative advantage and is added value to the table. This is what we call synergy. So of course, also for India, two key strategic partners of India are becoming now close friends. Is a very good news for India, and these really developments will shape the way that we will collaborate in the future.
Ambassador, a lot of Indians are aware of our security and defense partnership with Israel, but here I want to focus on something more beside, which has also have a huge potential and has some of the remarkable work have been done in this area of especially agriculture. I have been to Israel in the past, and I have witnessed it used to be desert, what you call it, and it's now converted into the oasis. Even I have been to some of the vineyard there, shockingly very surprising. And in some of your technology and deep irrigation has made a lot of change. Could you talk about such collaboration in India? If you give some of the example and outcome which can be widespread in India, applied more than in the rest of the other states and part of the India. Also, I understand Israeli company Netafim had committed to India on such projects. Any update on that, Ambassador?
Yes. Well, as you well mentioned, thank you so much for this. Israel invented the drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is a major technology, but it's not the only one that we use in order to overcome the water challenge. And yes, the water challenge in Israel is quite big because we started from a very low starting point. So companies like Netafim, like Jane, Rivolis, Metzer, Israeli companies with Israeli technology, it was invented in Israel, are now working broadly in India. I think India is the leading country in the world for adopting this advanced technology of drip irrigation. And what we also need to know about this technology, that is always advancing. So we moved from the basic drip irrigation to what we call now precision agriculture. Now we use drones and satellites to monitor the fields and to use this drip irrigation in order to utilize and really to be more efficient and more precise, I think, in the accuracy of pixels in how we use water, fertilizers, nutrition, and so on and so forth.
How would Indian farmer will adapt such technology, such advanced technology, Ambassador?
Well, first and foremost, through these centers of excellence, as I just mentioned before, 30 centers, functioning centers of excellence all over India, with Israeli experts exposing and sharing Israeli technologies. Just last year, 150,000 Indian farmers were trained in these centers of excellence and were exposed to the latest technologies of Israel, not only with drip irrigation, but very much with drip irrigation, but other technologies. And those farmers are going to their villages and then they spread it there. And that's how the demand for these companies, that's why these companies have footprints all over India and implementing drip irrigation all over India. And not only that, also advancing and adjusting the systems to the specific conditions of India, which is, in some places are different from Israel. So drip irrigation is the basic technology, but we advance it, we implement, we adjust it to the needs of the Indian farmers. And this is something that is ongoing. It's ongoing, it's an ongoing process. And now with the esteemed Minister of Jal Shakti, the minister and his assistants that are very decisive and really strong leaders with their plan and missions, and together alongside with Israel, technology and support and sharing experience and know-how, India is going to overcome, I'm sure, I'm positive that India is going to overcome its water challenge, implementing most of our technologies and practices and experience here in India.
Ambassador, I also would like you to talk about a little bit, the water technical resources, especially which you had a turnaround technology, what we call, which is already talked worldwide, what Israel has done basically. How it can be do, say, in terms of Delhi, which is a water scarce city, and how Israeli model can be adopted. Could you talk about some of the elements, concrete elements, how it is done and how it can be spread in India?
Well, water management is a holistic approach. So we work on from end to end on both sides of the equation, the sources and the usage. That's how you optimize this problem, this challenge. So we start with sources, enhancing the sources, keep conserving water, keeping them clean, purify if we need, conducting them very efficiently without losing any. Sometimes we need to recharge the groundwater and then to use the water for irrigation with and other usage very wisely, very efficiently, using technologies of measuring, testing, and keeping the water available for each part and really using it without losing any. So we say in Israel that every drop counts, every drop matters. And with this approach, when you internalize this understanding, the importance, the value of water, you can become, with implementing the technologies that are already there, you can become very, very efficient in water usage.
Ambassador, and now we focus on the energy aspect. I understand 10% of the energy comes out of the solar energy from in Israel, and is targeting more than 25% basically. India is also looking for some sort of energy mix in this country, but sometimes it's not viable as our traditional fuel energy sources are much cheaper when it comes to the solar energy. How do you think Israel can contribute and collaborate? And your contribution in the India Solar Alliance, Ambassador, could you comment on such issues?
Well, first, as you well mentioned, India is leading the usage, the implementing of solar energy in the world. The International Solar Alliance is led by India, and we are joining that and supporting that. And of course, making this renewable green energy less expensive is something that is embedded with adapting new technologies. That's how, for example, we reduced dramatically the cost of desalination of water. So we started with more than $1 for 1 cubic meter of desalination. Now in the last bid in Israel, the company that won costs less than 40 American cents for desalinating from seawater to drinking quality water, each cubic meter, less than 40 cents. And this is due to advanced technology. And we are advancing even that technology now, it's underway. So it's mostly about adapting new technologies, and we really managed to reduce dramatically the cost also of solar energy. Using solar energy, we should also have technologies of storage of the energy, because the sun is not shining all the time, as we well know, and not in the same strength. So we need also to be able to storage this energy and to conduct, to transfer it from different places and to regulate it wisely. And so we are really cooperating in that. And you mentioned that, but in the last conversation of our two prime ministers, that was just a few weeks ago, they talked about, of course, collaborating on the challenge of COVID-19. But one of the main issues that they mentioned is the collaboration between Israel and India on renewable energy, and more specifically on solar energy. So we are sharing technologies, practices. We are going to have a digital conference which is going to be dedicated to the advanced technologies of solar energy. Our best scientists, best leading companies, path-breaking companies will be there, exposing their technologies, their achievements, and of course we are going to share in this area. And I think that India is going to lead this endeavor in the world, and we want to be part of it.
Great to hear that, Ambassador. And focusing on such innovations, I understand the very talked about per capita R&D investment in Israel is one of the highest in the world. But I want to understand from you, Ambassador, you have excellent academic credential to understand the ecosystem within India, to have a robust scientific research development like Israel. What is the Israeli model? What are the elements of R&D, university laboratories, government role, and funding for such ecosystem that exists in Israel? Your comment and on such a matter, which I think our policymaker could also take a cue out of this.
Well, as you well mentioned, I have a background of academy, so I can give a whole lecture, maybe a whole course about that. So
you're welcome.
I'll try to be brief. First of all, we built our country on education. When we started Israel 72 years ago, we started from scratches. Nothing was there. No natural resources, nothing. People came with almost nothing, ran away, fleeing from different parts of the world and came to Israel. So we decided to invest in human capital, which is basically mostly education and healthcare. Later, education evolved to innovation. So we really invested in educational institutions, in research, in development. And now I think the most leading companies in the world, especially in technology, have research and development centers in Israel. Since we decided that this is going to be our relative advantage, and we want to be leading in the many technologies in the world. So it's basically education that evolved to innovation, creativity. And again, there are very many aspects of culture, of urging people to challenge authority, to think out of the box, multi-optional thinking, adaptivity, teamwork, which is very, very important. And our military had a very dramatic role in that, in really taking the young generation, integrating them and letting them work in teamwork. And that's how, this is only some part of the properties that, of course, there is culture and tradition and many other aspects and ecosystems and creativity, not only in the technology, but also in making, building the right ecosystem that will be most efficient and will bring us to optimization of our resources. So it's mostly about education and conducting the young generation to the right places and giving them the ground, the fertile ground, cultivating them, and then the rest follows. So the future is in the young generation, like you do here now in India. I think that the young generation of India is very promising. I'm really impressed of them, and I think it's a very good news for India. Just cultivating them, giving them the fertile ground, and they will do the job.
Ambassador, coming back to towards the end of our discussion, it is important you as a foreign affairs expert and the capacity of ambassador and the key security and defense partner of India. I would like to ask your perspective. As you see, Indian subcontinent is buzzing with geopolitical concepts like Indo-Pacific and Quad military exercises, which is of course set forward to keep the international laws, like to keep the UNCLOS conventional on track, and also knowing everywhere the Chinese breakout in South China Sea and opening fronts with India in Ladakh and Doklam and Indian Ocean region. How do you see such changes, and how Israel, as a partner of India, look at such geopolitical changes in the subcontinent, Ambassador?
First, I have to say that I have full trust, confident that the strong leadership, decisive and wise leadership of India will know how to conduct and to manage these affairs, even if they are complicated. Israel is a strategic partner of India, good friends, and Israel has a strong friendship values. So we are going to be there alongside with India, to support, to share. We are not against anyone. I have to stress that. We are not against anyone, but we are very much in favor of India, our precious friend, strategic friend. So, of course, we will share and support as much as we can as friends. And as I said, for India to defend itself, to keep its interests, but we are not against anyone. This is something that I have to stress.
So any comment on concept like Indo-Pacific, which is unfolding as a big concept in the context of India and their relation with powers like United States, Japan, and Australia? How do you see such a environment building up, Ambassador?
Well, I say whatever supports peace and tranquility and really unites countries and make them collaborate, support each other, I think is very well accepted. And as I said, whoever is our friend and our partner, we are going to support, because that's how we conduct our deeds with friends. And that's how it should be. And of course, any alignment, any agreements, I think bonding of countries which will support peace and tranquility and will lead the world to a better situation, a better balance, of course, is very well accepted.
Do we see our leaders have a meeting this year, face-to-face meeting, which was a long due? Prime Minister Netanyahu was supposed to be in India, which was postponed. Do we see some potential to the bonhomie, which always happened between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu? Do we see that this year, coming year, Ambassador?
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, yes. We know how much beneficial are those visits and meetings, and we know that with the chemistry that is there between our very esteemed leaders, how much it gives support and backwind, positive backwind for the relations between Israel and India. So hopefully things will evolve in that way, that they will meet and of course push the relations and the partnership and collaboration to its higher heights, even new heights as it is today.
Thank you, Ambassador Ron Malka here on India. Israel bilateral relation. Also, congratulations for his great job, great initiative, establishing a diplomatic relation with India's friend and ally Bhutan, and on his innovation and collaboration in irrigation, on agriculture, on water resources, and much more to come. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ron Malka, with Manish Kumar Jha on Business World. Thank you very much, sir.